Welcome to Relation Tales. Please like this video and subscribe Relation Tales that we're grateful for each and every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you in the comments, so let's begin. I've heard people talk about gut feelings, those whispers in the back of your mind that tell you something is off. I ignored mine for months, convincing myself that I was just overthinking. I was a busy man, working long hours at my software consultancy job, while planning the wedding my fiancée, Samantha, had always dreamed of. She came from money. The Wellington family was one of the wealthiest and most influential in our city. Her father, Martin Wellington, was a powerful businessman, and her mother, Vivian Wellington, was a relentless socialite who made sure everyone knew their place. Then there was Nathan, my best friend. We had been inseparable since college, roommates, brothers in arms. He had my back, or so I thought. Looking back, the red flags were there. The stolen glances between Nathan and Samantha. The inside jokes they refused to share. The way Nathan would always be the first to text her if she needed something. The secretive smiles. The way he lingered when he thought I wasn't watching. I had brushed it all off as paranoia, but the truth was far more sinister than I could have imagined. The night before the wedding, we had a lavish rehearsal dinner at one of the most expensive venues in town. The Welling sons had spared no expense. Crystal chandeliers, gourmet catering, and a guest list of 300 elite attendees. My parents, humble people from a working-class background, felt completely out of place. My father, a retired school teacher, and my mother, a nurse, had scraped together their savings to pay for our share of the wedding. They had given up so much for me, for this marriage, and I was about to find out that it was all built on a lie. As the party carried on, I noticed that Samantha had disappeared. Nathan's gone too. A little voice in my head whispered. I should have ignored it. But this time I didn't. My stomach twisted with unease. I checked Samantha's social media and saw a story she accidentally uploaded and deleted within seconds. But I had seen it. A hotel hallway. A room number. A glimpse of Nathan's jacket in the frame. And I knew. I had to see it for myself. I drove through the city like a man possessed, heading straight for the 5-star hotel in the video. Nathan had made the guest reservations for the wedding, so it was easy enough for me to talk my way in. The moment I saw Nathan's car parked outside, my heart clenched in my chest. I walked through the corridors, stopping in front of room 847. My pulse was a drum in my ears as I reached for the door handle. It wasn't locked. I stepped inside, and there they were, Samantha and Nathan, entwined in bed, tangled in each other's arms, whispering sweet nothings. The woman I was going to marry. My best friend. I didn't make sound. I didn't explode. Not yet. I did something worse. I recorded it. Captured every humiliating detail. The timestamp, the whispers, the betrayal. Nathan chuckled. We'll never get caught. I gritted my teeth. Oh, you will, Nathan. You will. And then I left. I had a wedding to ruin. I woke up early the next morning, my mind sharper than it had ever been. Sleep had eluded me, my body fueled only by the venomous rage that coiled in my chest like a living thing, feeding off the betrayal that had shattered my world. I could still hear Samantha's giggles, still see the way Nathan's fingers traced her skin, still feel the burning imprint of their whispered words. But I didn't break. I wouldn't break. Today was the day of my wedding. And today, I would burn them to the ground. I showered, the scalding water barely making a dent in the ice-cold fury beneath my skin. Every movement I made was methodical, calculated, as if my body already knew what had to be done. The plan was simple but devastating. I would let them believe they had gotten away with it, let them stand at that altar with me, basking in their own arrogance. And then I would tear their world apart in front of everyone they had ever sought validation from. A knock at the door jolted me from my thoughts. I threw on a t-shirt and sweatpants, forcing an easy smile as I opened it. Samantha stood there, her hair perfectly styled, her eyes soft with pretend affection. The liar, the cheater, the woman I almost devoted my life to. Morning, babe, she said, stretching on her toes to kiss my cheek, her lips brushing against my skin like a phantom touch I wanted to wipe away. I crashed at Rachel's after the rehearsal dinner. Too much wine, she added with a sheepish smile. You know how it is. I nodded, feigning mild amusement, hiding the storm brewing inside me. Must have been a hell of a party, I said smoothly, watching her carefully. She gave a little laugh. Oh, you know how the girls get. One drink turns into three, and suddenly you're having deep conversations about the meaning of life. My stomach twisted at the audacity. Last night, she was in bed with my best friend, and now she was standing here, lying so effortlessly to my face. She leaned against the counter, watching me with an expression I had once thought was filled with love, but now only seemed calculated. You okay? You seem quiet, she observed, tilting her head. I smiled, the kind of smile that hid knives beneath it. Just thinking about today. It's a big moment, I said lightly. She exhaled and nodded. Yeah, it really is. The start of our forever. Forever. She really thought she was going to get away with this. I checked my watch. It was nearly 9 a.m. The wedding was set to start at noon. That gave me exactly 3 hours to set the stage for their downfall. Hey, I said, making my voice sound casual. I need to head over to the venue early to make sure the AV setup is good to go. You know how I am about details. She rolled her eyes playfully. My little perfectionist. Fine, fine. Just make sure you don't see me before I walk down the aisle. Bad luck, you know. Oh, Samantha, you have no idea how much bad luck is coming your way. I kissed her forehead, knowing it would be the last time. I'll see you at the altar. And then I walked out, leaving her blissfully unaware of the reckoning she was about to face. The Wentworth Country Estate was a grand venue, the kind of place that screamed old money. It had been Samantha's dream location, a historic mansion with marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows, and a ballroom so extravagant that it belonged in a palace. Too bad she wouldn't be getting her fairy tale ending. I arrived at the AV control room, a small space tucked away above the ballroom. Tony, the technician, was already there, running through sound tests. Morning, groom-to-be, Tony greeted with a grin. You ready for the big day? I smiled, sliding my hands into my pockets. More than ever. He tapped on the computer screen, going through the final checks. All right, so we got your couple's slideshow queued up, baby pictures, engagement photos, all that good stuff. Actually, I interrupted, pulling a USB drive from my pocket. I've got a last-minute change. Tony raised a brow. Oh, yeah, I said, my voice steady. I put together something a little more personal, something that really captures the essence of the relationship. I handed him the USB, the loaded weapon that would destroy them both. Tony shrugged. Hey, it's your wedding, man. Just give me a cue when you want me to switch it over. I nodded, my fingers tightening into a fist as I thought about what was coming. Samantha and Nathan would never see it coming. By 11:30 a.m., the guests were already arriving. The Wellingtons' elite social circle filled the grand ballroom, their designer outfits and expensive jewelry making the air feel suffocating. Business moguls, influential politicians, high society socialites, all here to witness what they thought would be a celebration of love. Instead, they were about to witness a public execution. My parents arrived, my mother's eyes glowing with pride, my father giving me a firm pat on the shoulder. I forced a smile, guilt gnawing at me. They had poured their savings into this wedding. They thought today was the best day of my life. They had no idea what was coming. At 11:50 a.m., I took my place at the altar. Nathan was supposed to stand beside me as my best man, but he wasn't there yet. Good. Let him scramble. The ballroom was packed, 300 guests seated, waiting for the grand entrance. The buzz of conversation filled the air, laughter and clinking champagne glasses adding to the illusion of joy. At 11:58 a.m., the music started. The doors to the bridal suite would open in 2 minutes. And in 3 minutes, their perfect world would crumble. I felt my phone buzz in my pocket. A message from Nathan. Dude, where are you? The ceremony is about to start. I smiled. Don't worry, Nathan. You'll see me soon. I tucked my phone away and turned to Tony in the AV booth. Get ready, I whispered. He nodded, fingers hovering over the controls. The music changed. The guests turned toward the entrance, expecting to see Samantha in her grand white gown. I took a slow, steady breath. And then, I stepped forward. I picked up the microphone, and with a smile that held the weight of my vengeance, I said, Good afternoon, everyone. Before we begin, I have something very important to show you all. Tony rolled the footage, and then I watched the world burn. A hush fell over the ballroom. At first, the guests were merely curious. A video wasn't part of the schedule, but no one questioned it. After all, I was the groom. This was my day, my moment. until the screen changed, until the footage played. The moment Samantha's bare skin intertwined with Nathan's appeared on the massive screen, the room plunged into stunned silence. Then came the gasps, the horrified whispers. A woman in the front row let out a strangled cry. On screen, Samantha giggled. Nathan whispered, "We'll never get caught." The timestamp in the corner made it undeniable. The night before the wedding. I could feel the tension coiling in the air, the realization crashing down on them like a tidal wave. Martin Wellington, Samantha's father, shot to his feet, his face a mask of pure fury. Vivian Wellington, always the poised socialite, stumbled back into her seat like she'd been slapped. And then, just as I expected, chaos erupted. "Turn it off," Samantha's mother shrieked, scrambling toward the AV booth. But I'd already locked it in place. For a full 30 seconds, the guests were forced to witness the truth. The moans, the whispers, the ultimate betrayal. Nathan burst through the side door, his face pale as death. "Daniel, stop this," he yelled. Too late. By the time Tony finally killed the feed, the damage had been done. The room was in shambles. I stepped forward, unbothered, untouched. Samantha appeared in the doorway, her grand white gown dragging behind her like the ghost of the life she had just lost. She took one look at the room, at the guests, at me, and she knew. "No, no, no, and no," she screamed, rushing toward me. Tears ran down her face, but I felt nothing. "Daniel, please, let's talk." I stepped back, my voice cold. "There's nothing to talk about." She sank to her knees in front of me, sobbing, her once flawless makeup now a ruined mess. "I love you. It was just a mistake." I tilted my head. "A mistake." I turned to the guests. "She calls it a mistake. But last night, she and Nathan spent hours making that mistake." I let out a bitter laugh, letting my gaze settle on Nathan, who stood paralyzed in the middle of the room, sweating under the weight of hundreds of stares. "Tell me, Nathan, was it a mistake the first time? Or the 10th? His jaw clenched. "Daniel, don't do this here, man. Let's—" I turned back to the crowd, cutting him off. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is my best friend, Nathan. My best man. He promised to stand beside me today, to have my back. And instead, he had my fiancée on his back." The room exploded in gasps and murmurs. Nathan took a step toward me. "Dude, please, let's talk." I punched him. Hard. He hit the floor with a sickening thud, groaning. Samantha screamed. I wiped my hands, turning back to the crowd. "Thank you all for coming. But there will be no wedding today." And with that, I walked away. I barely made it outside before I heard footsteps running after me. "Daniel, stop." I turned to see Martin Wellington, Samantha's father, storming toward me. His face was a terrifying shade of red, his fists clenched. "You just humiliated my family in front of the most powerful people in this city," he seethed. I smiled. "Oh, you mean the same family that tried to humiliate me?" His eyes darkened. "You have no idea who you're messing with, boy." I stepped closer. "Oh, but I do. And now, so does everyone else." He stared at me for a long moment. Then, without another word, he turned and walked back inside. But I knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The next morning, someone banged on my door. I opened it to find Samantha, Nathan, and her parents standing there. Vivian shoved a stack of papers at me. "We expect compensation, Daniel." I blinked. "Compensation?" Martin sneered. "The wedding. We spent over $200,000 on it, and you destroyed it. You will repay us." I laughed. Actually laughed. "You seriously think I owe you anything? Your daughter cheated on me. In my bed. With my best friend. And you want money." Vivian's nostrils flared. "You think you can humiliate us without consequences?" I crossed my arms. "If you don't want to be humiliated, maybe don't raise a daughter who can't keep her legs closed." Samantha let out a choked sob. "Daniel, please, let's just talk. I made a mistake. Get off my property." She reached for my hand. "Please." I stepped back. I said, "Get off my property." Nathan, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. "You're making a mistake, dude. You're burning bridges you can't fix." I smiled. "Nathan, you were my best friend. You burned those bridges the second you touched her." He said nothing. And then, without another word, they left. I watched them walk away, their backs stiff, their shoulders squared in what they probably thought was defiance. But I could see it for what it really was: shame, regret, and fear. Nathan walked a step behind Samantha, his jaw clenched so tightly I could see the veins in his neck bulging. He knew. He knew his life was about to unravel, piece by piece. Samantha was still crying, still playing the victim, as if I had been the one who ruined our wedding. As if she hadn't been the one who stripped my trust down to nothing, tore my heart apart, and spit on the vows we were supposed to exchange. I waited until they turned the corner, then slammed my door shut. My chest rose and fell rapidly, my hands twitching at my sides. I should have felt relieved. I had done what most men dream of doing when they catch their fiancé and best friend in bed together. I had exposed them, humiliated them, and left them with nothing but the ashes of their own betrayal. And yet, the rage still sat thick and bitter in my throat. Because they weren't suffering enough. Not yet. Not nearly enough. 3 days after the wedding that never was, I received a phone call. It was from Nathan's boss. A slow smile crept onto my face as I answered. Daniel speaking. Hey, Daniel. This is Greg Collins from Marshfield & Company. I leaned back into my couch, propping my feet up. How can I help you, Greg? There was a pause. Then, I understand that you and Nathan Reynolds were close. Were. Past tense. I let the silence drag before answering. We were, yes. Greg exhaled heavily. I attended your, the event. And I have to say, what I saw was alarming. Alarming? I bet it was. As a firm that prides itself on integrity, he continued, it doesn't sit well with our board that one of our senior consultants is now a viral sensation for, well, let's just say, dishonesty of the highest order. I said nothing. Greg cleared his throat. We've decided to sever ties with Mr. Reynolds. Effective immediately. I grinned, but kept my voice neutral. That's unfortunate. I figured I'd let you know, given the circumstances. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. I appreciate the call, Greg. Have a great day. And then, I hung up. Nathan had just lost his six-figure job. And this was just the beginning. It didn't take long for the footage from the wedding to spread like wildfire. Guests had recorded the entire thing. My speech, the video, the screaming, the chaos. Someone leaked it on his social media, and within 48 hours, it had gone viral. Samantha's name was everywhere. Nathan's name was everywhere. There were think pieces written about infidelity, heated debates on talk shows, and more memes than I could count. Top 10 wedding disasters of the year. Guess who made number 1? We'll never get caught. How that aged poorly. When your fiancé and your best friend betray you, but you own the mic. Their faces were plastered across gossip blogs, and no one was on their side. Samantha's charity board position, gone. Nathan's corporate connections, severed. Martin Wellington's business deals, suddenly much harder to close. One act of betrayal had cost them their entire world. And I had front row seats to their downfall. 2 weeks after the wedding, Samantha showed up at my door, not unannounced. I had seen her car pull up from my window. I almost ignored it. Almost. But curiosity won out. I opened the door, leaning against the frame, arms crossed. She stood there, looking nothing like the confident, high society woman I had been engaged to. Her hair was in a messy bun, her expensive designer dress replaced by simple jeans and a hoodie. Her eyes were puffy, red-rimmed. For a brief second, I felt something stir in my chest. Not love. Not regret, just a small, flickering ember of the man who had once planned a future with this woman. But then I remembered. I remembered room 847. I remembered Nathan's hands on her, and the ember died. Daniel. She whispered my name, her voice thick with emotion. I said nothing. She swallowed hard. Can we talk? I raised an eyebrow. About what? How great your night was in that hotel. She winced. Daniel, I made a mistake. I laughed. Actually laughed. A mistake? Samantha, a mistake is forgetting to set an alarm. A mistake is ordering the wrong coffee. You didn't make a mistake. I leaned in. You made a choice. Her lip quivered. I wasn't thinking. I was drunk. I scoffed. You were sober enough to tell Nathan. We'll never get caught. Her eyes widened in horror. You heard that. I smiled. A slow, satisfied, vengeful smile. Not only did I hear it, Samantha, I whispered, leaning in, but so did the entire world. She broke. Right there on my doorstep. She collapsed into sobs, shaking her head, whispering, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I didn't care. She deserved every tear. I reached inside, grabbed an envelope from the counter, and tossed it at her feet. She blinked, sniffling. What's this? Divorce papers. Her breath hitched. But we were never married. I shrugged. Call it closure. She stared at me, eyes searching, hoping for something. Anything. But there was nothing left. Goodbye, Samantha. And then I closed the door in her face. After slamming the door in Samantha's tear-streaked face, I didn't feel victorious. Not yet. She had lost her place in the world she once ruled, but the scars of betrayal still burned in my chest. I walked back inside, rubbing a hand over my face. The apartment still had traces of her. A forgotten perfume bottle, a hair tie on the counter, a book she'd left on the coffee table. I should have thrown them all out. Should have erased her. But I wasn't just going to let this end quietly. Because I knew Samantha. She wasn't done with me yet. 2 days later, I received a call. From Vivian Wellington. I almost didn't answer. But then I thought, why not? Daniel. She greeted, her voice smoother than glass, but edged with something sharp beneath it. I believe we need to talk. About what? I asked, keeping my tone neutral. A sigh. You made quite the mess, haven't you? I laughed. Oh, you mean the mess your daughter created when she decided to cheat on me? Silence. Then, the damage to Samantha's reputation is already catastrophic. But we don't need to make it worse, do we? There was the unspoken threat. They weren't here to apologize. They were here to silence me. I leaned back on my couch, shaking my head. Vivian, if you're calling to ask me to clean up Samantha's mess, you're wasting your time. We're willing to compensate you. My fingers twitched. They really thought they could pay me to shut up. I smiled, even though she couldn't see it. Oh no. You misunderstand. Silence. Then, cautiously, what do you mean? I exhaled slowly. You don't have enough money in the world to fix what Samantha and Nathan did. But if you think for 1 second that I'm going to pretend it never happened, you're dumber than I thought. Her voice turned cold. Watch yourself, Daniel. I chuckled darkly. No, Vivian. You watch yourself. Because every time your daughter tries to claw her way back into high society, people will remember what happened. And I will personally make sure they never forget. The silence stretched so long, I thought she had hung up. Then, in a quiet voice filled with rage, she said, You'll regret this. And then she hung up. It took less than a month for the entire Wellington empire to crumble. Samantha's name became synonymous with betrayal. Her father lost key investors. The family businesses struggled to recover. Samantha went from elite socialite to a scandal-ridden disgrace. It was beautiful. And Nathan? He was jobless, abandoned, and drowning in debt. I knew from mutual contacts that his apartment lease was up, and without a job, he was struggling to find another place to live. One night, out of curiosity, I drove by his place. I saw him sitting on the curb outside his building, looking at his phone like it was his last lifeline. I could have rolled my window down, could have mocked him, thrown his betrayal back at his face. But I didn't, because there was no greater punishment than what he had done to himself. He had destroyed his own future for a woman who had lost everything. I drove away, leaving him to rot in the consequences of his own actions. One night, Samantha showed up at my door again. This time, she wasn't crying. This time, she wasn't begging. She just stood there, hollow-eyed, tired, looking like a shadow of the woman she once was. Why? She asked softly. I frowned. Why what? Why didn't you just let it go? I let out a slow breath, shaking my head. Samantha, let me ask you something. She didn't answer. So I asked, Did you ever love me? Her lips parted, but she hesitated. And that was my answer. I nodded. Yeah, that's what I thought. She looked away. I sighed, stepping back. Goodbye, Samantha. She didn't fight it this time. She just nodded. And then she walked away. For the last time. For weeks, I expected to feel something. Relief. Happiness. Bitterness. But all I felt was free. For the first time in years, I didn't have to walk on eggshells around someone else's expectations. I didn't have to wonder if I was good enough for a family that never respected me. I didn't have to worry about whether my best friend was betraying me behind my back. I was free, and that was all the revenge I needed. 6 months later, I moved to a new city, a new job, a new life. I stopped checking Samantha's social media. I stopped wondering where Nathan ended up, because they didn't matter anymore. One night, while unpacking, I came across a small box labeled wedding stuff. Inside was the engagement ring I had once given Samantha. For a moment, I stared at it. Then, with a quiet chuckle, I tossed it in the trash. Because I didn't need it anymore. I had everything I needed. A future, a fresh start, and the knowledge that I had one. Because the best revenge is moving on. And I did.